Okay guys, I wanted to do a quick little tutorial on how we're going to shade our kitchen and show you some things you may run into and how to fix those problems. So this is my drawing that I've done of my kitchen, and this is one section of it that I've been working on. So up here in this section you can see where I had started shading this. Well, what I want you guys to think about when you're shading is I want you to think about where the light's coming from. And in my kitchen, there's a window on this left side, so the light is coming in from this direction. And so these faces of these planes are going to be lighter, and these planes, like this side of the cabinet right here, are going to be darker. So that's what you have to think about when you're shading your artwork. Thinking about, well, what needs to be in shadow and what could be a mid-tone and what can be a darker shadow. So with that being said, I was just going to run through and do a few things here for you. I'm not going to color all this, but just something to give you an idea of how to go about shading and how you think about light, and also fixing some of the issues that you may run into along the way. So with that being said, let's get started. I had already started shading this section of the cabinet right here with my values, and I picked the values over here in my value scale that we made in class. And since my cabinets are white, I'm kind of making them in this range right here of white, and then that way I can work off how dark I want my midtones and shadows to. And you'll also notice how you can change the color of the stroke from being black to more like a lightish gray color. And you can decide how you want to do that. If you want to keep your strokes around your artwork black, you're more than welcome to. I'm kind of changing mine a little bit to soften them up so they're not quite as harsh. So from here, I'm going to do this side of the cabinet right here. So I know that as this cabinet on this side is going to be in shadow because my light is hitting this side of the cabinet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a shade darker. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick my shapes that I've made, and I can color pick this color for this shadow side right here if I wanted to, because it's probably going to match up fairly well. And so now I want to do this section right here. So what you may run into is when you're trying to select a shape like this and your path is overlapping perfectly against another path, you may not be able to select the one that you want. It may select this one or it may select that one, and that's going to be frustrating for you to try to pick those shapes when your paths are so lined up it won't choose the one you want. So the way I want to fix that and show you guys how to do it is, say if I want to pick, I'm trying to pick this shape right here for this piece of molding, not this larger shape. But what it does is it won't let me pick that because it's trying to select the bigger shape here of the side of the cabinet and not that little piece of molding. So what you can do, well, you can do this two ways. You can lock or hide the shape that you're not wanting to select. So in this case, I'm not wanting to select this big side of the cabinet. So because I want to select this section right here, this molding, but it's only letting me select this piece right here. So if you select that object that you don't want, you go to Object, then you can either go to Hide, and you can hide that selection, and that will let you pick the one you want at that point. And so I can pick that now, which is the one that I really wanted to color, and then I can go ahead and shade it. I'm just going to fill it with a temporary color for now just to show you. And then to bring this back, you will go back to Object and you can go to Show All, and that's going to bring that part of the cabinet back. Now an alternative method you can do is you can go back to Object and you can hit Lock, and you can hit Lock Selection, and when you do that it will let you select this shape that you're wanting to, and then you can just simply go here and say Unlock All, and then that frees everything back up. So that's how you would pick a shape that it's not letting you pick because it's trying to pick another shape that's laying in line on top of that. So I just wanted to show you that little trick right there. And this is where you can use your eyedropper tool a lot in this lesson here when we're doing our shading. So I'm just going to let you guys watch me, and I'm going to color this side of the cabinet, and then I'll let you take what you've learned here and apply it to what you're working on for your room. Okay, so I'm going to start up here with this piece of molding right here. So I know this molding is going to be in shadow and this part is going to be in highlight. So I'm just going to go in and I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to color pick this color right here that I made this shadow with. And I'm going to look at that and notice that I had taken the stroke off of this right here. So it took that, when I dropped that, it took the stroke off of this shape right here, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with doing that right now. This is all to your artist's discretion on how you want to do this. So I know that this side of the molding here is going to be lighter. Well, I've kind of already gotten my color set up a little bit here. I'm going to try that one right there. And let's see what that looks like. And you can notice that this is the same color as my ceiling, and my ceiling is white, but I don't like how there's nothing here. You see how it's just solid? So what I'm going to do to my ceiling up here is I'm going to see it's at my lightest value here already, and that's at only 5% black. But what I can do is go into my grayscale slider, and I'm going to just make that like 2% black. That little bit of difference, and now you can see the line of that piece of molding right there. It's very subtle, but you can see it. And if you wanted to darken that a little bit, you could, or if you wanted to take the ceiling up to 1% black, that is, you know, it's barely there. But I'm just trying to show you how you would achieve adjusting those values so they would work with your artwork. I'm going to bring that back to, just bring it back to 3 for my ceiling. And that's just going to give me a little bit of difference there. Okay, so now I have this piece of molding that I want to color. And this is going back to where it sometimes may not let you select the shape you're wanting. It is in this case. But if it would not let me select that per se, and it was selecting this piece of molding, but you're wanting to select this piece, that's where you would go in to this particular shape in mind, and you would go to object, and you could hit lock, and you could hit lock selection. And then that way you can select this piece that I'm trying to select right here. And I'm just going to color pick this to this color right here for a minute. And obviously that's not going to work because that's the same color as that. So I think I'm going to try to make that brighter. So I'm going to go back to my grayscale right here. And I'm actually going to customize that color to like a 2. And now you can see I have a line there that kind of represents that. And if these are too subtle for you, you can always make them more contrasted. You can make this one darker and this one lighter, but that may affect this side. And you'll just have to play around with it and see. The goal of this is just to try to get you to understand where the light's hitting and where the shadow's hitting, and how to adjust those values, and which creates depth when you're shading. All right, so here's another part that I'm going to have to use my lock up here in my object because it's not going to let me select. See, I'm trying to select this shape, but it's only letting me select this big part of the cabinet again. So I'm going to lock this big part of the cabinet that you see right here. I'm going to hit lock selection. And then that way I can get to this piece because I think I may want to change that. I don't know. Maybe I want to change that. And I'm going to use my swatches that I've made here that we did in class to do this time. I want to just say, maybe I want to make that a little darker, like that. But I don't want a stroke around it, so I'm going to remove my stroke on this particular piece right there. Okay, now I'm going to unlock everything because remember I had locked this piece because it wouldn't let me select this one like I wanted to. But for here on this big side of the cabinet here, I'm going to run over here because I can really get to it easily on this path because there's nothing in my way. And I'm going to go back to my swatches, and I'm just going to start picking. Oop, that was on my stroke. You got to make sure you're either on your fill or on your stroke. You always have to remember that. So I am going to select here to get on my fill color. And I'm going to go back to my swatches, and I'm going to start selecting a color that I think might work. And I'm going to go with this color. And this is another thing you guys are going to run into during your coloring process or shading process. This shape was over, let me just delete this temporarily, these shapes. And you're going to run into this because there's so much going on. So when you fill that with a color and you can't see what's above it, you're going to have to select that, and you're going to have to go and arrange it and send it to the back. And that's going to send it to the back of all these lines on this page. So you do that, you're going to go to Object, and then you're going to go here to Arrange, and then you'll see it right here, Send to Back. And there it goes. That's where it puts it behind these shapes that we've made. All right. So now I can continue coloring. So I know this is my shadow side of the cabinet. So I'm going to make it of the same color as this shape right here. I'm just going to color pick that one, and it's going to remove that stroke also. And I want to do the same for this one down here. I'm just going to color pick from here, and it's going to remove that stroke because I don't know if I want that or not. If I do, I can always go back and add a stroke around it later, like I did here, and you can see that. So I had this fill color and this stroke color, which isn't black. I made it more of a mid-tone gray. Okay, so now what else do I have to do here? Well, now I need to adjust the color of this section right here. But if you try to click in the middle of it, it's going to select this big shape right here because there's nothing filled in this shape that I want to fill. So you're going to have to pick this stroke right here to make sure you select this particular piece that you're wanting to colorize. So I'm just going to pick me a color and see how I feel about this. And I feel like there's way too much contrast in these two pieces here. So I'm going to shift select. I'm going to hold my shift key down and select this one too. That lets me get both of those at one time. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to brighten that up a little bit like that. Okay, that feels a little bit better for me. And you can see where we're coming along now. And I'm not going to use a stroke around some of these, so I'm going to take this large shape that I made for the actual back of this side of the cabinet, and I'm just going to remove the stroke, and I'm going to select it right there to make sure I'm on my stroke layer, and then I can take that fill off right here. You can do it up here also, but you can also just do it right there, and it will take that off. Okay, so I'm going to now say, well, let me look at this just a minute. So now you can kind of see where I'm going with this, and you can see some of the depth I'm creating. So I see now that there's a shadow up under this piece of molding right here. And again, if it would not if you run into a situation where it won't let you pick the shape that you want because it's hitting another one of these shapes, you're going to have to make sure you lock the shape that you're not wanting it to pick. And again, you pick that object that you don't want to pick, and you hit lock selection. So now what it'll let me do is I can pick this shape that I made for this shadow up under this cabinet. And I think what I'm going to do is just color pick this darker shade of gray right here. And again, guys, you can make this at your discretion on how dark or light you want this. If you want these shadows to be a darker shade of black or gray, then that's up to you. But I would suggest if you make your shadows really dark, you're probably going to have to darken your highlights a little bit, because if you have like a really, really bright gray and a really, really dark, almost charcoal gray, it's going to be really contrasty. So I try to even out my lighting So I'm going to leave it like this for now. I feel like maybe this needs a little more contrast in this piece of molding right here. So I'm going to go back to my swatches and see. Oh, I was on my stroke. That's what you got to watch, guys. You change that right there, or you can change it here too. I'm going to go to my swatches and I'm going to darken that down one. All right, now that gives me a little bit better visual of this piece of molding that I want to try to show. Okay, and I feel like maybe that's a little bright, but I'll tell you what, we can do that in reverse. Say if I want my face of my cabinets to be brighter like this, you don't have to change it to match this. If you decide that you want this to be brighter, I'm just going to use my color picker here. I can color pick that and make that brighter, and you saw how that happened right there. All right. Okay, so let me zoom out just a minute. So now I'm going to go down here and I'm going to select this portion right here, and I can get to it fairly easily. I'm not going to have to lock anything. And again, this is the front side of my cabinet, and since it's sticking out a little bit in front to match the height of this cabinet as far as how far this cabinet is sticking out, I think I'm going to use the fill color that I used here. So I've selected this piece right here and I'm going to color pick. And so from here, I'm going to pick this side of the cabinet right here. And I'm going to also make it in shadow. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of make it, I think, this color right here that I did on this side of the cabinet right here. Okay. Now this line that you see here is where I drew this wall. Let me see how that's drawn. So here's this wall. I'm just moving it out of the way for now, and I want to see where that is and why. I think I may have an extra layer here that I didn't need, and I did. I'm sorry about that, guys. So I'm actually going to delete this one. Yes, that's what I want to do. All right, so, and sorry about that. I had a extra layer there that I didn't want. So I'm going to color that one right there. And that's just a really light shade of gray. Okay. And this is my wall color that I've made. And because this is the backsplash of my wall, so it's going to be kind of more in a shadow. So for right now, I'm just going to fill it with maybe, say, that color. And I'm going to remove my stroke off of that too. And I do that right there, making sure that's selected. You can make a no stroke right there, or you can tell it to do it right there. I'm going to leave that for now and see how I feel about it. Okay, so now I have this big side of this pantry door right here. And I know, again, this is going to be in shadow right here. So I definitely know I want it to be darker. And more likely it's going to be darker than this side of the wall, because this is going to be in more shadow than this surface here, because this surface, since the light's coming in, it's going to hit more on this surface here than it is here. But it's going to be darker than this because this is what sticks out the most, and this side is going to be catching most of the light. So you have to think about all this too when you're shading. So right now I'm going to go in and I'm going to make this side of the cabinet, say, let's make it a little bit darker than this side right here. And I'm going to take my stroke off of here too. So you can see that little subtle difference right there in the value. And you can kind of see how this is coming along. And now I see, well, this doesn't really match this. I feel like this needs strokes around it like I did here. So I'm gonna do that real fast. I'm just gonna go in and add me some strokes around these doors right here. So I'm going to just say I want to pick this right here. And I'm going to put a stroke around this shape right here. So making sure my stroke is selected. I'm going to go to my swatches and I'm going to select a darker shade right there. And you can see on that stroke how I made that one. That one's 60% black. I'm going to do the same on this one down here. I'm going to go to 60%. If you hover over it for a minute, it'll tell you right there if it's 60%. You can see that designated there. Okay. I'm not saying that's perfect, but I think I'm going to leave it for now. So now I'm going to put this stroke around this middle section to kind of make it look more like this. See how I put this stroke around here? So I'm going to go ahead and probably just, well, I know I did this 60% black on this stroke, so I want to do it the same. So I'm going to go here and I can hover over, and there's my 60 right there. All right, now you can see what that did, and you can see how I'm making this side now darker than that. But I feel like this is too light. I feel like it needs to be a little bit darker, this panel right here. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to darken that down. Sorry, I was on my stroke again, guys. You always have to make sure you're on your fill. I'm going to see where I want this to be. I think I'm going to do it. I'm hovering over that. That was my 40%. Yeah, I'm going to leave that there. I don't really mind that too much. So that kind of gives me, yeah, I think I like that. I think I want to go with it. So now if I feel like, well, maybe this wall needs to be a little bit brighter so there's a little more contrast between the wall and this cabinet, well, I can do that right here, and I'm going to go ahead and brighten that up right there. And I feel a little bit better about that. So now I'm going to go ahead and work on this section right here. And this is where your eyedropper is going to come in handy, guys. Because now that you've made these decisions, you can just make, you can just take and eyedrop your colors from here to here, because these are on the same side of shadow as these. So I'm just going to do that right now. I'm going to go up here and pick this piece of molding. I'm going to take my eyedropper tool and I'm going to select this piece of my molding up here. You can make this quick work right here, guys. I'm going to do the same right here for this piece of molding. And I'm going to do the same. See if it'll let me select it. And it did. It let me select that. Again, if it would not let you select a little piece in here like that on yours, you would have to go in and lock this big piece that you don't want it to select. So then it will let you select this little bitty piece right here. But it is letting me select it, so I lucked out there. So I'm going to use my eyedropper, and I'm just going to use this side of the shadow right here that I use for this side of the cabinet. So I'm just going to eyedrop that right there. Okay. And you can see where this is heading. So say I've got my countertop here. And this is again where you may run into an issue with it selecting. You see it's just not letting me do it because all these lines are so tight together. So I'm going to lock one of these. I'm just going to lock this one right here for now. So again, I had to lock this guy right here because it wouldn't let me select my countertop that I had drawn here. But now I can select that. And once I do what I want to with that, I can unlock the front of this countertop right here. So I am going to pick a color. I can just say I'm going to just color pick this wall color right here. I'm just going to leave it there for now. And that way you get this illusion of this being in shadow. And you can see how making these lighter and darker all come together. And right now I still feel like I want this wall to be brighter because it's a white wall in my house. So I'm just going to take that on up one more notch. And that's just going to add in more contrast in here. All right. So let me go from there. I feel like this may be a little too dark, this shadow color up here. And another thing, Once you guys get your shapes filled, you don't have to worry about selecting the strokes. You can just come in here and select the fill color, and it's going to be a lot easier to pick versus just your line drawing. So once these are filled, you can just select in that fill color, and it will just select it right off the bat. I feel like this is too dark, so I'm going to brighten that one up, and I may even take it up one more notch. I put that one at 40%. Let's see how I feel about that. I just felt like it needed to be lighter. I don't know why. Just my artistic license I'm using there. And if I don't like it, I can go back and change it. Okay, so now we have the front of this cabinet right here. And I believe, if I remember correctly, I locked that. So I'm going to have to go up here to Object and Unlock All. And that's going to unlock this section of the front of this cabinet right here. And now that I can select that, I'm just going to get my eyedropper here, and it's really going to be catching some light like the front of my cabinets, so I'm going to make it a really light gray. I may actually have to make that brighter, or either I can make that a little bit darker, and I don't want to stroke around that, but right now I'm going to leave it like that. And then I have this shape here, which is where the cabinet, where the countertop comes down next to the sink, and this is going to be in shadow. So I'm going to go and I'm going to put that in shadow, and that was my stroke. Again, guys, you always have to make sure you're on your fill or your stroke, depending on what you're wanting to adjust. So I want to make this darker because it's going to be in shadow, and I'm just going to pick a color. And I'll leave it there for now, and let's see how that works. You can see how it's getting the illusion of depth right there. Okay. And I don't want to stroke around this, so I'm going to hit no stroke right here. There we go. And you can see how you can start getting that depth in your drawing right there. I think that's all I'm going to do, guys, for now. I know that these aren't drawn really clean right now because I just did these really fast for this tutorial because I didn't want it to take so long. But I can color these, and guys, I would never let this happen in real life. I mean, obviously, I would clean these up, and so they would be and look how they're supposed to look. But say if I want the top of this jar, I can go ahead and color pick here, and it's going to make it the same color, but what it is it takes away the stroke because I don't want to stroke on it about that color. Maybe I'll make it a little bit darker for that top of that jar. And you can see it's behind this piece right here. So I want it to be over this side of this cabinet. But when it was drawn, it put it behind it, and you can see that right there. You can see how it goes behind that. So if I select this and I go to Object, Arrange, I want to bring it all the way to the front right there. And you see now what that does. It puts it in front of this piece and in front of this. It'll put it in front of everything on this page when you say move to front. So, you know, that just kind of gives you an idea on how you can shade. And you know, there's a lot of work I would have to do to clean up some of this. Like I said, I just did a lot of this for the tutorial, but I just wanted to show you guys how to start to begin shading your shapes in Illustrator. So I hope that helped out with any issues you may run into. So just go ahead and start shading, and if you guys want to send me any examples of your progress, you're more than welcome to. You can email them to me. If you have any questions about anything, email me, and I'll let you guys take it from there.